But now we have had Sharon and Sean watch Barbie. So we wanted to know what you guys thought about it. So before we go into the films we actually have watched this week, tell us about Barbie and Oppenheimer. Tell us about Barbie. What you thought about Barbie?
Okay,
So,
for me, right.
you start then.
Okay. So, I mean, I wasn't going to bother because from the trailer looked absolutely awful, and it was something I thought, well, I'm not going to bother. But because you guys were going on about it so much, I thought, and Toes in particular, you were saying, I think you'll find this interesting, Shawnee. I think you'll find this interesting.
You
I
should probably
like to point. I did not say I think you'd like it. I said I think you find it interesting.
Interesting, yeah, that's it. That exactly, yeah. I think you'd find this interesting. So,
Still need to do the summary though, in case anybody didn't hear the last episode.
The summary of what Barbie is about.
Yes, just because somebody might not have listened to the last episode and may walk into this blank.
Okay.
So
Fine.
okay, in a nutshell,
do it.
unless one of you guys want to do it.
Okay.
Anyway, so it's Barbie Land. There's Barbie Land, and Barbie decides that she suddenly has this crisis of a little bit of a meltdown and decides she's going to go and find out. She keeps having these visions, so she decides that she's going to go into the real world and find out why she's having all these
thoughts of death.
Yeah, so death Barbie and so I went to see this, and I have to say it was much better than I thought.
Yeah, okay, cool, good stuff.
I was really quite. Thought it was. I mean, I really enjoyed it, and I really liked it when they sort of changed the Barbies. And they had those little montages between. You know what I mean, with the
the bit where they take the Barbies one by one into a truck and then they say something to them and then there's
we'll have this Barbie and that Barbie and that. So I quite enjoyed it, although I did start to get a little bit fed up towards the end. I got to be honest, I did think it was and I mean I don't like Will Ferrell anyway at the same time. But yeah, that is another one like the others.
Another one.
So yeah, but on the whole, I thought it was okay. It was interesting, and I really did enjoy some moments of it. There were some great moments, and I thought the Kens were good. You know what I mean? And,
the multiple Kens.
Yeah. And I mean, as I say, although I started to towards the end get a little bit antsy, should we say, but I did think that the musical bit with the with the Kens, I thought that was quite cool. So on the whole, it was pretty good, and I would have given this a 3-star. Whereas it was better than I was expecting.
All right, cool. Sharon.
Yeah, I think I went into it expecting it to be almost like a girl's version of Elf. Where instead of Elf going into the real world, it was like Barbie going into the real world, and that was my expectation of it. And to some degree, it was like these innocents abroad.
Yes.
But then, unlike Elf, where he maintained that innocence throughout, and even though sort of awful things happen, fundamentally, he stayed true to what he'd always been. He was like this pure soul.
Yeah.
Whereas I think this was like that awakening almost of that transition between almost like the loss of innocence and that realization that there's more to the world than you thought.
Yeah.
And I think how once that door's opened, you can't get back through it. Whereas that sort of compare and contrast, where Alf, he never lost that sort of pure heartedness and that innocence.
Yes.
Barbie, her eyes are opened, and it's interesting to see how once someone's eyes are opened, you can't sort of put them back in the box.
Yeah.
Again. And so I thought that was interesting, and I thought it's far more nuanced, and there was far more layers to it than I was expecting.
Yeah.
And even there's one bit I was almost thinking, is this like almost spiritual? Is this like, are we having a Roy Batty moment where he's like meeting his creator? Are we having,
Oh yes, I know which video you're talking about. Yeah.
So I thought it was far more nuanced than I was expecting it to be. And as you said after, when you watched it, it was, of all the films we watched, when we watched this sort of the Barbenheimer sort of dance off, that you weren't expecting the Barbie one to be the one that you thought about more than you did. And there were sort of really lots of layers and quite hefty topics in there actually that I wasn't expecting them to face. Because in the audience when I was there, a group of women came in with all their children. There was like loads of really small children in the audience. And afterwards, I was thinking, what on earth would they have made of that? They probably took in the singing and the dancing, but I'm thinking, would they understand any of the existential elements of the whole thing?
Hopefully not the double entendres in there.
No, there were a few of them in there. Yeah, some of the dance moves, and you think, oh, okay. And some of the entendres were there.
Yes, not even double in some cases.
Yeah, it was just like, it's there. But yeah, I thought that, to me, the tone of it was right. The fact that, you know, she doesn't know how to drink out of a glass because she never has anything in. You know, or she's always sort of just done, and there's nothing ever in it. So, and, you know, her feet have never touched the ground. There's things like that, you know, sort of part of those things are in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler. But yeah, I thought it was far more nuanced than I was expecting it to be, and it was far more of a grown-up film than I was expecting it to be.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when you look at it, it's a 12. You're thinking, oh, this is definitely going to be like kiddie friendly. But in some ways, I thought this isn't actually a film for children at all. It's apart from the dance number at the beginning, this is not a children's film. This is actually very sort of adult, and it's sort of, in some ways, it's quite a serious film.
It is.
And I thought it was, far more complicated than we were led to believe when it first sort of hit our screens. Whether that was intentional or not, I don't know. Whether they wanted to go, it's Barbie, it's Alf in pink, you'll love it. It's Mamma Mia for the, you know, it's going to be that feel good, take all your friends and dress up sort of film.
Yeah.
And it's thinking, when I was sat there thinking, all the girls, and there was girls in the audience who were dressed up when I went to see it, I thought, what on earth are you making of all this? This is not the film that you were sold. But I didn't think it was distracted for all that. I thought the fact that it turned out to be a sort of much more grown-up film than I was expecting, it was really, really interesting to me.
Did we talk last week about the Greta Gerwig refusing to shift her position on it? I can't remember if we talked about it or I had that conversation somewhere else.
I think that might have been somewhere else. I do not remember this conversation at all.
So apparently, Greta Gerwig had asked if she would do it, and she said yes, and she came up with, this is the film I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And then there was a suggestion of, well, no, could you change this bit? She said, no, I'm doing this, or you can get someone else to do it. Could you change this? No, I'm going to do this, or you can get somebody else to do it. And she wasn't prepared to budge from, this is the film I want to make. You want me to do Barbie? This is how I do Barbie.
Yeah, and I respect that, and I think the film is better for that, because you can see essentially the fact that Mattel are the ones who commissioned this film, and the way Mattel are treated in this film, you can immediately see all the conversations that would have been had, that would have been had about, are you sure we shouldn't do this? And the fact that it was Greta Gerwig, from the word go, I was like, this is not going to be a normal film. It is not going to be a normal film. It is not going to be Barbie Dream House Saves America. It is not going to be that. No. And I keep bumping into people. And when I asked them about Barbie, there was someone who was asking me about it, like at tennis. And when we were talking about Barbie, so it was us two men, and one of the older men was like, "What, Barbie? You're going to watch Barbie?" And I was like, 100% we're going to watch Barbie. This is no... And the guy who I was talking with, Jack said, he was like, I was like, "What do you see Barbie?" I was like, yeah, I did. So what do you think? And he said, you know what? Thinking about it a couple of days later, I like it more than I thought I did immediately after I finished watching the film. And it's a reaction that I've seen. I had that reaction. Holly, you had that reaction. And I've seen a lot of people have that reaction where after the film finishes, you're kind of like, it's almost kind of like a, what was that? And then a couple of days later, it reminds me of, Sean, you remember Mother?
Yeah, I remember Mother. Yeah.
I remember that was a very similar thing. And I was never expecting I would be comparing Barbie to Mother. But after, remember watching Mother and you're like, what the hell was that? And then after like 2 or 3 days later, you're like, that was actually a good film. That was a really good film. And it's a little bit like that with Barbie, where I'm thinking, while you're watching, I don't think the story hangs together as well as you're watching it. I feel like it's a bit disjointed in places and it doesn't really flow. But then afterwards, you kind of go, But yeah, but they actually try to do quite a bit of stuff in there. But anyway, John, I hope that's enough for you. We've done some more Barbie. The next step, John, will be that you go watch Barbie and then you can come tell us what you think. Yeah, how about that?
I'd like to add that another thing that has actually made me appreciate Barbie more has been the endless memes and videos that I've been sent over the last week, which have actually been quite joyous and genuinely funny, and have made me again feel fonder of it.
I'll tell you what, I think anytime a film creates a moment, like a genuine moment that people actually engage with and start talking about and everything, I'm really happy. And I said, I mean, I put up a thing on YouTube as a short of just us, and it was just essentially me talking. It's like a 6-second clip of our review, and it was me saying, I don't really care about star reviews this week because cinema. and I hold up with that because cinema. And so I love what Barbie and Oppenheimer have done in tandem. And I know that the Mattel have now said, we have so many more toys we want to make films of, which kind of yes, it kind of fills me with dread. It kind of fills.
It's made a lot of money, isn't it?
It's gone over $500 million, so it's over $500 million the other week. So it's made a lot of money. So Mattel have a whole bunch of. I think they're trying to do like how Disney have all these theme park rides, or have Disney have all these things that they want.
Did they do G.I. Joe?
I think G.I. Joe is Mattel.
Right.
No. It can't be. I don't think it is. I don't think it is because G.I. Joe and Transformers are the same people. So I don't think G.I. Joe is Mattel. No.
That'll be. No, that's Hasbro, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, that's Hasbro. That's Hasbro. Yeah.
I would just say, not on that note, but I think whoever did the casting, some of the cameo casting was absolute genius. I'm just thinking of like the Sugar Daddy Ken or whatever his name was. I think that was just pure unadulterated joy.
Can someone explain to me?
That tiny
somebody explain to me,
was...
Alan? That's all I want to know.
Alan.
Alan was an actual doll.
Right.
Alan was an actual doll because that the thing about it is that if you know your Mattel stuff, there's loads of Easter eggs in the film. So Alan was an actual doll. Midge was an actual doll. Yeah. Growing up Skipper was, so they made a pregnant doll. And growing up Skipper was an actual doll. So there's the scene in it where America Ferrera goes to the Skipper and raises her hands, and as she raises her hands, her boobs grow bigger. This was an actual doll that Mattel made. So, so little girls will take this doll, raise the doll's hand. As you raise the doll's hands, the doll's boobs grow bigger. so yeah, and I think even in the credits, they actually go through a lot of the different Barbies. All the to share. Yeah, they actually did make this stuff. They actually did make this stuff. So it's but we must move on.
Yes, we got to.
Yeah.
And then kudos for the clip. There's a clip from a certain well-known BBC television programme in there. Kudos for showing that clip. That I think has...
Please, don't make any others.
But don't make any more, please.
No. Mattel are going to. They are going to make any others. And I think the only if there's any lesson that they should have, they should take whatever toy it is and give it to a filmmaker who is going to do something crazy with it, like Greta Gerwig has done with Barbie. So if they're going to say, right, we're going to take Snakes and Ladders, but we're going to give it to Yorgos Lanthimos, who did The Favourite, do something with Snakes and Ladders, then I'm like, okay, I would be interested to see what he comes up with at least. It would be better than giving it to... I don't want to disparage any director, but usually what tends to happen is that they'll find...
You don't want a puff piece.
Yeah, exactly. They'll find somebody who usually does a whole bunch of hip-hop videos that are just all about... Essentially, give it to somebody who's directed a Fast and Furious movie. and then James Wan might do something.
Give it to Christopher Nolan. Why not?
Yes.
Well, I was just thinking exactly the same thing. Let's see what that comes up with.
Yeah, give it to Christopher Nolan, see what he comes up with. But okay, cool. Let's move on.
Magic 8. They did Magic 8 Ball.
Magic 8. I think that's actually a plan to make that a movie. But I think that if they're going to do a Magic 8 Ball movie, it needs to be a horror movie.
That sense, it has to be a horror.
It has to be a horror movie, and they need to give it to Mike Flanagan. Mike Flanagan, Magic 8 Ball movie, he would make something freaky as hell, which would probably be a little bit like one of the films we might get to talk about this week because we've been bagging for Barbie for so long. So we might get to talk about this film that Sean has seen. But let's go quick.